So now you are in law enforcement, and you've been so all your life, pretty much. I mean, since you're graduating from North Carolina State, right?
North Carolina Central.
North Carolina Central. I'm sorry, North Carolina Central. Yeah, let's be clear with that. There's a difference, right? Yeah, Eagles, right?
Yeah,
all right.
Eagles.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. In fact, James Ammons is the new president there. But anyway, that's another story. But since graduating from North Carolina Central, you've been in law enforcement all the way up to now, as I mentioned on the top of the show, to lieutenant at the FIC. What has been your experiences with dealers or drug users that come into the system?
Well, my experience has been when I talk to them, they're entirely upset because it seems like we're given so much time, and just for the little amount of drugs we have, and their philosophy is, well, I didn't even kill anyone. There's more people out there killing people, getting less time than I am, selling drugs.
Right.
And see, that's their take on it.
Right. So,
and their philosophy is, I don't mind serving time. I know that I did wrong. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I was going to go there.
Yeah. Right. I don't mind serving the time, but it's just too much time.
Right.
And why is disparity in this time, in the sentencing? Because let me give you an example. Okay, since they enacted the crack law.
Right. Which was in
1986. Yeah, 86 and 87.
Right.
Mostly whites are prosecuted in the state court, and blacks are prosecuted in the federal.
Right. And these are valid statistics, you're saying?
Yeah, valid
okay.
statistics. You can look up on the internet on the sentencing projects, Frontline, and things of that nature. And let me give you a prime example. We had two guys. We had Stephen Green. He was a 20-year-old African-American first offender, arrested for 70 grams, crack by a federal undercover agent. Okay, he was sentenced to 10 years in court, prison term. Okay, we have a Daniel Simonowski, 37-year-old first offender, white guy. He was arrested for 67 grams of crack by the county sheriff. He received probation.
So, I mean, how do you justify that, though?
It's no justification. That's what I'm talking about it now. Where's the justification? It seems like they're targeting blacks.
So this is a known case.
It's a known
there
case.
Are law enforcement agencies out there who know this case, and they see no problem with it.
They don't see any problem with it. It's not,
well, I should say some, because I'm sure there are some that do see a problem with it. But the bottom line is that there's no change.
There's no change
in the sentencing.
And not only that, when the United States Sentencing Commission came up and said, well, this is just entirely, this is wrong.
Right.
We have to change it. Mind you that I say that Congress created the United States Sentencing Commission. They told them to go out and see if there's any disparity. So they don't even trust the people they told to go out.
So wait a minute. So they went out and did this kind of reporting, investigation, and found out that there were grave disparities.
Right, correct.
And there's still no change in what's.
No change.
Right. That's such a hypocrisy. It's a paradox, really.
Yeah, I know, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Right.
And if you, I, or anyone else, if we don't go out and do anything about it, it's gonna stay the same.
Right. Right.
So
what can people do? I mean, like, you're in law enforcement. You're a lieutenant with the correctional facility. I mean, I'm an educator like yourself. I mean, what can we do to make a change? Obviously, being on a show like this makes people aware.
It's the first step.
Right. It's the first step. But what else?
Okay.
Because I'm sure there are people out there watching who are just amazed at this.
You can go out there and you can protest. Like me, I went out. I wrote Maxine Waters. I wrote the Minister Farrakhan. I wrote different congressmen, and I haven't received anything back
from any of them.
And this is what I suggested. I suggest that we go to Washington D.C. and it appears that we can get, like, my suggestion is get a million child march, a million children march.
Right. Right.
And the slogan would be, let our parents go. because the time that they're giving away, it's leading the little ones out here to defend for themselves.
Right, right.
And it's causing so much stress on the grandparents to try to raise children and things of that nature. And we should show the president, we should show the Congress that we just don't want our ancestors or our parents just be locked up and you throw away the key.
Right.
We know that they did wrong, but does it justify them staying in prison their whole life? It's no justification. They're not killing anyone. Someone can say, well, if you're supplying the drugs and things and people taking overdose, you can come up with that synopsis. But just actually going out killing someone with a weapon, just intentionally murdering people, you know. But when you murder someone, it's the intent.
Sure. Right. Yeah, I have two brothers, as I think I may have mentioned to you, who are correction officers in New Jersey. And when I go home, which is at least 3 or 4 times a year, at least 2 times out of those 3 or 4 times a year, I go into the prisons and I speak to the people. And unfortunately, they're packed with, as you say, African Americans. And although we represent only 12.5% of the population. And when I sit down and I really have, after the speech, have one-on-one or sometimes small group conversations with these young, most of the time, brothers and Latinos, a lot of times they are, they're in jail having, crack, and they're in jail with, mass murderers, people who've killed their whole families and that type of thing, and they're in jail, like you said, because the same thing, this is a federal law.
Right, it's a federal law.
Right, it's a federal law. So, I get really frustrated, and I guess my question to you is, though, on another subject, where does this come? Where do, let's start from the really basics, like, where can people get this stuff? If we want to stop the importation of drugs, we can do that.
We can do that.
If we wanted to in this country.
I agree with you 100%. And just give an example. Okay, we just had a war a couple months ago, and we have these powerful satellites.
Right.
And these satellites can tell whether or not you got weapons and trucks from outer space.
Right.
And they, don't you know that these satellites can determine who's bringing in the drugs in this country?
Right, right.
I mean, we the #1 defense intelligence in the world. And this, I don't really consider
I don't know if are we? I don't think President Bush would think that at this point, with all he's been thinking about reasons for going to war. But anyway, don't let me go there.
Right. It's another story.
Right, that's another whole story.
Yeah. But I don't really consider this hard stopping. I don't really consider, the government, it's hard for them to stop this stuff from coming in.
Right.
I think the government is allowing this stuff to come in. I mean, man, we can stop this if we want to.
Yeah.
But that makes you think, who's really behind this?
Right.
Who's really behind it?
Right. And people like Maxine Waters and Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan and John Lewis and so many others have been arguing this point for so long. So when does it stop? Well, I think some of the responsibility obviously falls back on us. Yeah. And that's where I have to see, because I have really no expectations that America is going to be consistent with what she says she's about. And I've given up expectations on that a long time ago. So I focus my energy on educating young African Americans and Latinos in particular, as well as whites as well, but young African American Latinos in particular, about this, because some people use this, as I've talked to these young guys in the jails, because they see no other way out.
Yeah, they get depressed, because I suffer from depression myself, so I can identify.
Right.
But they get depressed, they use it, and they don't see any way out.
Right.
And I was talking to my doctor one day. He said he was over in another country. And he asked them, well, why, they had the cocoa plants, they were eating on cocoa plants and stuff like that. And they said, why, why are you eating on the cocoa plants? They're very depressed, they don't have no jobs or anything like that. And they starving. They said, let's take our appetite away.
Wow.
And that's sad.
That's very sad.
They don't have any food over there in their country.
Right. I remember the whole campaign about Just Say No. I really never quite understood that, but as I delve more into kind of reading more about this and researching, because if you're going to be a public speaker, and if you're going to go into the communities and try to talk to people about, and educate them about it, you have to understand what it is, how it affects them, why they do it. And it is so much more than just saying no. When you feel like you are helpless, and you feel like you are hopeless, and you feel like no one cares, you turn to something that's really going to, in your mind, not only give you a high, but it's going to put food on the table. That's going to give you kind of the betterment of life. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying in any way that we are justifying the use of drugs in any way, but to ignore the reasons, to ignore the impact that this has on the quality of life for many people, I think is a sin in and of itself. We have to delve into the issue and understand why.
I think the reason why you have people want to work and cannot get jobs. You have people that have been in prison, and when they get out, they feel like they have a second chance. They're trying to start over, but they look at the prison record and say, no, I'm not going to give you no job. Or you might get a little job at McDonald's or something, you know, that nature thing. You have people trying to get into good schools and cannot afford it. And things of that nature. So you have a tendency to, and then you have peer pressure. You have people wanting all these bling blings and driving these nice cars and things of that nature, and you know, you got people wanting to do the same thing.
They wanting to do the same thing. And part of that, and we can get into this in part two. Unfortunately, we're out of time, Gary, but I want to just say this. Part of, I think, we have a responsibility in the media, and one of the reasons why I continue to do Your Voice is because I feel like we have a responsibility to put information out that is positive and factual, and that's not sensationalized, you know, because bling bling means nothing to me unless you have bling blinging up here, and then you can bling bling all you want, you know.
We got to teach our kids that.
We have to teach our kids that. Well, Gary, listen, we're out of time, but I tell you, I know it goes by fast. But listen, we're going to have you back on though, and we're going to talk more about some of the disparities, which I think is important for people to understand. And next time you come back, I want to really show some statistics of the disparities that we'll put up on the screen. Thanks a lot for stopping by.
Appreciate it.
All right, and thanks for keeping us safe here as well.
I'm going to try to do that.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for tuning in to Your Voice. Crack and cocaine, what's the difference? Stay tuned next time when we deal with another pertinent issue that may or may not affect you right here in Your Voice. Remember, the bottom line is results, and anything else is rhetoric, and it is Your Voice.